And now we're going to be doing a feature on an individual who is making his way through the movie industry. And he's a very talented young man, and I am joined now by what Playback Magazine considers, and that's a Canadian publication which is very, very highly recommended throughout the Canadian film industry and movie industry, as one of Canada's up-and-coming young Canadian, I should say, not filmmakers, but sound recordists. Is that correct, Mr. Adam Clark?
Yeah, location sound recordist.
So we're joined now live in studio with Adam Clark, and it's a pleasure to have you in the studio, Adam. It's nice to see you again, and thanks a lot for coming out tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me out, Nick.
You're very welcome. All right, well, we're just going to get these sound levels up here, because for some reason they're down, and I don't know why, but they are. All right, it's perfect, so here we go. All right, so let's talk about your career. So the last time I really saw you was pretty much back in high school, and you were always pretty, from what I remember, anyway, you're pretty involved with Comtech and that sort of stuff. So talk to us about your career. You're a York University graduate. So talk to us about what you did after high school and where you are now.
Well, it was interesting because when I was in high school, I was really interested in film production. I thought I was going to be a director or a cinematographer, or someone who was going to, be involved in the visual aspect of making movies. So I went to York University, the BFA program up there, and after my first year, I directed my first film, and I realized that directing wasn't my talent. I actually spent more time on the sound design and the soundtrack than the actual directing and the acting and focusing on all those different elements. So when I went into second year and stuff, I started to focus more on sound. And it was an amazing experience. It really, really opened my eyes to this whole other world in film.
Now, how important is sound in a film? And it's going to sound really stupid, but obviously there was a day and age when film was just silent films. So how important is sound in a film today? And does it really add that? Obviously it does add, but how important is that extra element of sound in a film?
It's pretty interesting. We have a saying in the film industry, you can watch bad picture, but you can never have bad sound. The instant bad sound happens on a film or the instant bad sound is on a television program or things like that, people tend to either change the channel or stop watching the movie. And the funny thing is that's one of the smallest departments on a film set, yet it's probably 50% of the production. So you're on par with the cinematographer, you're on par with all the other big keys on a film set, and your department is very pivotal to how the movie's going to go in industry.
Now, in this article by Playback Magazine, it says you spent over $25,000 on equipment. Did you really?
Yeah,
Now, can I ask why? That sounds like a dumb question, but let me, was that an investment that you said, this is an investment in my career and this is something that needs to be done in order for me to get to where I am today? Is that how you looked at it?
Well, I looked at it as this, when I was in second year, I was one of the only few people really doing sound recording in my program.
Right.
And I thought that my program would be sort of like a microcosm for the film industry. Mm-hmm. So after I worked on all these films in second year, everyone wanted me out to do sound recording and things like that. And when I came into film, when I worked on my first professional feature film set, they were saying, it's a real valued job and skill in industry. So I bought my own gear. I figured it would be a great investment, and I enjoyed it, and the investment was worth it.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, obviously, it's paid off for you. I mean, you're featured in this magazine, and you're on IMDb.com, which I'm going to pull up here in a second for you. So you've done a lot of interesting work, actually, and you've says obviously like the Battleground and stuff, but you've done something which I want to talk about because we talked about it in the car, which is you did the sound for a Netflix ad, which is really cool to me. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I helped out with renting my gear to a Netflix ad for sound and everything like that. I've also worked on some other stuff recently. I did the new Bud Light commercial.
Yes, I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, some Tetley tea commercials and stuff. And I can't remember what else I had. Last week I was working on a Sobeys ad commercial also. And all of that, I'm recording location sound for in the commercial industry. It's been pretty cool.
Now, are these, it's going to sound strange, but are these are all shot here in Toronto or in Canada anyway, or do you have to, how far are you traveling to go do stuff?
Toronto. A lot of them are taking place in Toronto. It's a really, really busy industry right now. The industry this summer was expected to pick up tenfold because of the new feature shooting here. There's the Total Recall movie, which is shooting here right now, which has brought a lot of new business. And there's a lot more going on in Toronto because of new tax incentives and other stuff. So the business really picked up. So there's a lot of commercial shooting here, feature films, short films, and it's been really amazing.
Now, I'm just trying to pull you up on IMDb here. because there's some other stuff I'm going to ask you, but when I pull it up. But in terms of, this is my next point, which is the Canadian film industry overall. Now, is it growing?
It is. Yeah, it's. Toronto is an interesting city because you can turn Toronto into New York, you can turn Toronto into San Francisco, you can turn Toronto into anything.
Yeah, you know what? I was going to ask because I go, I walk downtown a bit and I see like the city and I'll go past and they'll be filming something and it's supposed to be in New Jersey. I'm like, this isn't right, but it's cool that it's in Toronto, where I've seen them doing films for movies like show like 13, where they would do it off an office building and they'd be shooting through glass. And I guess it's people pay more attention to what, where it is, but it's interesting because a lot of those people that are watching in America don't know it's Toronto. So
yeah.
It's kind of cool. I mean, we do because we live in the city and, we know it, but how does it make you feel to see like this is an American thing and it's in Toronto? Does it make you feel proud?
It does make me feel proud. It's more and more as more films start coming to Canada, more independent features, more independent short films and things like that. The bigger and bigger I see this industry growing, and the more people who are getting chance to, like me, being able to get into the film industry and really being able to follow their dreams and work on a sort of a dream job. I find it's fun. It's very interesting.
Well, you seem extremely passionate, and the one thing I like about it is that we don't think of sound when we watch movies particularly, and we have had people that do film scoring come on the show, but we never actually talk about the sound or the people behind the scenes. It's always the actors, it's always the director, the producer, the writer. It's never the guy in the back holding the thing, doing the grunt work, really, that gets the attention. So here you are. And so what have you worked with anybody really big lately, or have you done anything where you've been holding the boom and you're just like, wow, it's a big actor right over there, and you're holding the mic for the guy?
I got some big projects coming up which I can't really talk about, unfortunately,
right,
but you'll see it as it evolves sooner. But I've had the chance to work with some really great up-and-coming artists in the Canadian film industry. A guy called Michael Yari Davidson I work with a lot, and he was mentioned in Kodak magazine, one of their in-camera magazines, which is a really, really big deal. He was featured as a cinematographer. He's done a lot of really, really good stuff, and it's great because he's really moved up in the ranks of the film industry as a cinematographer and sort of struck out in it as his own, and he's done amazing. I've also had the opportunity to work with two great producers called Ais Weresh and Judd Tilliard, and they actually got me onto their first feature film, Battleground, which has done really well. It's sold, which is really rare for an independent feature film shot in Canada.
I was going to say, this is Canadian, which is awesome.
And it's doing really well. And the director, Neil McKay, was an up-and-coming. He worked at City TV and then decided to strike out on his own and do film. And it turned out amazing. And it was sort of this small, low-budget feature film, which sort of did what we all were hoping it to do.
Is that rewarding then when it does something like you work so hard for something and then it does what you want it to do?
Well, it's great because when you see a trailer, like you shoot a film and then you'll have that time span between when you shoot it and then a few months later when they actually cut together a trailer and start marketing the website stuff. So when I saw the trailer come on for the first time, you're so used to seeing all the behind the scenes stuff happening and everything, from that. And when you see the actual trailer and the film cut together and that dream and that vision from the director actually piece by piece showcasing his idea and how the whole crew collaborated together to make it, it really is.
That's awesome. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and we'll wrap up. We'll talk more about this because this is really exciting stuff. And so we're going to take a quick break here on Radio Nation. It's 8:22. I'm your host, Nicholas Pescott. If you're just joining us right now, you are joined live with me, of course, your host, and Adam Clark. One of the upcoming sound producers or sound makers, I should say, sound recordists. That's the correct terminology.
Location sound recordist, yeah.
Location sound recordist in Canada, which is really exciting, actually. So if you're watching TV, you're probably going to be hearing some sound that this guy did. So it's pretty exciting stuff. So we're going to take a quick break here on Radio Nation. We're going to be playing a song. All right, welcome back to Radio Nation. I'm your host, Nicholas Pescott, joined live in studio with Adam Clark. And if you're just joining us, this is a young sound recordist. That's the correct word, correct terminology. And the guy who holds the boom mic and does everything from, making sure sounds good to just making sure everything goes well audio-wise, right? That's pretty much correct?
Pretty much it. Everything on set when we're shooting, on location, I'm in charge of sound. So I'm in charge of gathering those sound effects, gathering those voices, making sure that the post-sound person who mixes things together and stuff has those materials in order to make the film. I basically laid a foundation for how the film's going to go for the rest of the sound post-production.
So you obviously then edit after you're done taking the sound, correct?
I've done editing also. My primary job, though, is location sound recording.
Okay.
So I focus primarily on the recording and stuff and gathering all those sounds and voices and things on set.
So take me through a typical, if you can, if you're allowed to.
Yeah.
Take me through what a typical scene would look like, or not really, but what your job is during a typical scene. So when the director goes, when he goes action or whatever, take me through what your job is to do. So you're holding this thing, and you're probably sweating because it looks pretty heavy, and you're like, you got all this stuff on, and so tell me what are you doing? Take me through what your moment to moment process is like, and through a short 10-second scene.
All right, so scene happens. They're about to go on camera, so I lug on my 40 pounds of equipment, strap it
Yeah.
on, because of course now I'm mixing sound levels and booming, and I hold this thing above my head, and then we get a frame line. So let's say it's a close up, and you have a little bit of room above your head. I try and stick that boom pole in as close as possible to the actors in order to get the audio levels. Then I mix levels and add filters and things like that in order to ensure that the audio sounds great. And then I'm in charge of following that actor and keeping that boom in front of them at sort of out of the scene, out of the frame line, but also at a good close enough angle that I can get perfect audio.
Now, has there ever been a time where you've been following the actor, or something happens, and maybe the boom gets in the way of the shot a little bit, or you fall, or the actor doesn't know the boom's there and he walks into it? Does that kind of stuff happen, or is it just...
When I was first starting off, yeah,
Right.
because I'm of course learning. It was
Yeah,
fun.
exactly.
It was funny because I used to run all my gear because batteries are so expensive off a car battery that I strapped onto my back. And when I was walking along with 40 pounds of gear on my front and 30-pound car battery on my back
Right.
and a boom above my head, it got clumsy. It got pretty clumsy.
I can imagine. I don't know how I could do with a car battery on my back. So
But as I got more and more into industry and got bigger and bigger and less student filmy and more professional, like my work's going to be, definitely seen on TV and in theaters. You learn more and more, and you gather more and more skill, and it's a job definitely which you grow with,
yeah, totally.
and it becomes what you make of it. So I grew with my job, and it's now part of me. Everything's instinctive.
Now, when you're holding, is it heavy? Is the boom mic heavy? This picture, it looks like it's a heavy thing, but I'm sure they gotta have light, like carbon fiber looking things that just look heavy, but they're really light. Is it heavy?
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. Yeah, it is. You train. So it's funny because they recommend 3 months of strict muscle training before you actually get into boom
I
hopping.
wouldn't doubt it.
And it's funny because when you do it, your first 3 weeks of boom hopping are the most excruciatingly painful experiences of your life because your arms are growing tired, your muscles are sore. And it's funny because after those 3 weeks, it stops hurting because muscles grow in specific areas, nerves die, and you're able to boom for longer.
Yeah, so after 3 weeks, you're just like, this is a piece of cake now. Like, I'm so sore, it doesn't even matter what I do. I know exactly what I'm doing.
Oh, my first string of film shoots, I remember waking up every morning and just hating my job. But now I love it, so,
There you go. No gain, no pain, right? So there you go. Perfect. And so now let's talk about Anything Goes, because this is something that's coming up, and this is something that looks like an interesting film.
Yeah, Anything Goes is a feature film I shot in August, September. I was on the sound crew for it. And basically, Anything Goes is sort of a dark comedy, which really interesting. It's about a guy who his girlfriend isn't giving him any affection, so he hires one of his ex-military friends to pretend to hold him and her hostage. And then he basically comes and the guy will fake getting beaten up by him, and he'll basically get affection from his girlfriend. And
Interesting.
It's funny because this guy brings along his friend who's from the military and everything as backup because more people come to this house retreat, which they're going to, and he needs someone to help handle so that nothing goes out of control. But this guy has post-traumatic stress syndrome, and he's a little bit messed up. So he starts believing that they're actually holding terrorists in interrogation, and he believes everyone who they're holding prisoner is actually terrorists, and he starts believing the thing's actually real. So he brings out a real gun. Shit starts to happen, and it gets crazy. So it's a really fun film, and it was shot by that guy who I talked about earlier, Michael Yari Davidson. It's actually our first film project together. Really amazing. It's got some really big names: Sean Kaufman, Saffron Cassidy. It was directed by a really great director named Bruno Marino. Really, really, really cool.
Now, Mr. Kaufman, I was just reading, he's from Niagara Falls, so it's nice to see a Canadian lead actor in this.
Well, you know what? I've worked with Sean a few times, and it's really, really interesting to see this guy's, career. He works on television, films, short films, and other stuff, and he's really, really talented. Yeah, he really knows his stuff.
Now, he was in Lingerie. I'm just reading this off IMDb, obviously, but it's some interesting stuff, some stuff that even I've heard of, which is I didn't know, right? So that's kind of cool, but he does have a long career for...
Yeah.
Not even being that old, really, which is interesting. And he's a nice guy to work with.
Yeah, he's a great guy to work with. It's interesting. So I've had a really, really great opportunity to work with a lot of people. I worked with one person called Brian Larkin on Battleground, and he actually won the BAFTA, British Actor Film Television Award, for a film that he directed called Running in Traffic. He actually wrote the screenplay for it, and he acted in the lead role for it. And he was working with me on Battleground. And this guy is amazing, from Scotland. We flew him down here and everything, and this guy was absolutely talented beyond all belief. And it was a pleasure to work with him,
What's it like working? You work with obviously a lot of different talented people. Now, is it you hear people and they work with people, and some people are just not easy to work with? But have you experienced that, or has it just been like so far in your career you've had a lot of fun working with people and people understand your role and you know their role? Has it just been a lot of fun?
The Canadian film industry is really, really interesting because we're small, but everyone knows everyone. You talk to someone and their friends or they worked on a shoot with, or one of their friends who was on that shoot worked with another person who you knew. And it's sort of like 3 degrees of separation, even more. It's really interesting. But what I find about it is that the people who have bad attitudes on set don't tend to last. They tend to either get them and they hate them, and no one wants to work with them anymore.
Is that a Canadian thing, or is it just an overall acting thing?
I don't know. I've heard different stories in the United States and things like that. But for crew members here, every set that I've worked on, everyone has been kind, generous, really, really, really thankful for the help. Because, of course, some of these productions are doing it on a budget, and a lot of people are coming out and doing it for free or for very little pay. And everyone here has a dream, and everyone here is working in this together. So everyone treats each other with respect, and it's really fun.
One last thing before you go, and that is, what advice would you give to someone who's just about to finish high school, or maybe they're going into high school, who is thinking about getting into your career path, and what advice would you say to them about how do I get started in this, or how can I get experience in this industry?
Be passionate. Passion is the number one thing which will get you places in the film industry. If you show passion, even if it's just starting off as a production assistant and you're running and grabbing coffee for, an actor or directors, or even if you're working as a, even if you're working at the bottom and working your way up, never complain, always have passion, always be thankful. And above all else, show respect, because everyone in the industry is here to help everyone else. It's such a small industry, and it's fun working in, but it's also one thing which is like, when you show passion, people really notice that. And when you show passion in your job, in your work, in everything that film represents, it's a memorable moment, and it's something memorable that people will remember and bring you out on more sets.
Well, Mr. Clark, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, and you're welcome back here anytime. And when you get super, super famous one day, we'll definitely have you on again. No questions asked. You don't even have to say anything. You just say, I want to come on for fun, and we'll be here. So thanks a lot for coming in, my friend. It's been a pleasure to see you, and it was nice seeing you. And all the best in your career, and I'm looking forward to watching certain things. And when you get something new, let me know, and I'll play it on the show.
Absolutely. Right? Thanks a lot again.
Yep. All right. So that was Adam Clark, ladies and gentlemen, and